In this video, I explain the concept of feasibility analysis, which is providing answer to three main questions. First, is the project really worth doing? Second, can we do this project? Do we have the capability to build it? And third, do we have support in our organization? So feasibility analysis is a study where we have to make the business case for the project that we have at hand. In all cases, organizations are usually dealing with a large number of projects. So it's important that we can make a business case for that project at hand, given that we have limited resources. Three areas we usually look at are technical feasibility, economic feasibility, and organizational feasibility. So a look at all these three elements will help us understand if the project is doable. And also, before I go and proceed with these three elements, it's important to know that throughout the project, we come back and we reassess our understanding of these three elements based on the progress and changes in the project. All right, so the first element is technical feasibility, which is the question to understand, well, do we have technical resources? Do we know how to make this application? Are we familiar with this application? Some areas that can create some risk for our project include lack of familiarity with the technology. So if we are coming to implement a totally new technology that recently have been out in the market, there's definitely more risk compared to a technology that's been already installed in our systems. Another element related to technical risk is the size of the project. The larger the size of the project, it creates more risk for our organization. We can assess the larger of the project in terms of the number of people it takes, the time frame for the project, and also how unique that project is. And the last element is compatibility with our existing system. Do we need the new system to work with our older systems, with our legacy systems? Imagine you are making a decision about implementing a new ERP systems, but you already have a financial module in your company. Do you need this ERP to work with your existing system? If you do, that creates more risk for your project. The second element that's important is that should we build this project? Does this financially make sense to build this project? In order to answer that question, we usually follow some steps. The first step is to identify the costs and benefits. Although this is preliminary in our project, we try to sit down and identify as many costs and as many benefits for the project that we can. The second element, the second step, is to assign values to these costs and benefits. So you try to come up with a dollar value, the best estimate possible. The third one then is to determine the cash flow, and there are various tools that you can use it. And finally, you can assess the financial viability. In order to really look at the costs and benefits and come up with a decision, there are different techniques to use. Some people look at return on investment or ROI. Another technique is to calculate the break-even point, the point where all of our expenses have been recovered. Or a more reliable, a more realistic method is to calculate the net present value. I have the formulas for each of these. So for return on investment, it's basically total benefits minus total costs for a given period of time divided by total costs. The higher that percentage is, that project is more favorable. The break-even point is the number of years where we have negative cash flow plus the fraction of the year where we have positive cash flow. Obviously, that could make a decision. The sooner we get to recover our costs, meaning the smaller the BEP is, that project will have some preference. And the last one is calculating the present value, which basically looking at the inflation and the interest rate. And now, if we are receiving some benefits, let's say in 2 years, we take into account the interest rate and see how much does that worth at the moment. So we bring all of our costs and all of our benefits and calculate them at year zero or at the end of the project in order to see if that project is viable or not. And the third element is related to the organization. Are we ready to do this? Do we have support in the organization? Is the project goal are aligned with the bigger picture that we have in the organization, with our vision, let's say with our 3-year plan, with our 5-year plan? And in order to understand that, it's also important to look at some different elements and different stakeholders. Do we have a strong support, someone who will push the project? Do we have upper management support? Are people in the organization are ready to do this? Are they largely supportive of the project? Or what about end users, system users? Are people generally receptive or resistant to the new project? All of these should be taken into account before we're rolling the new project. So all in all projects have feasibility risk. Our goal is to know the risk and the significance of those risks. And the reason why we try to think about this is to come up with a plan in order to mitigate the risk. And some of the things, for instance, we can do is that provide enough budget for training. If a technology is new and we're not familiar with it, we come up with a budget, or allow for a schedule time, or use a methodology that uses experimentation.